This is the 46 of 46 Podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 46 of 46 Podcast Summit Sessions. I hope your 2023 is off to a fantastic start. Now, remember, write those goals down. Come up with a plan of action to get you from point A to point B and put in the effort to accomplish those goals. Even on the days you don't feel like it, even on the days where it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient, that's how we grow and that's how we accomplish those goals. So I hope you all write them down, and I hope a lot of those goals involve the great outdoors this year, because what a year to get outside. But anyways, going along with my winter hiking theme recently here on the podcast, I'm here to talk again about winter hiking, and I have a friend of mine who's actually a personal friend who I've worked with in the past, who's here with me tonight to speak about his winter hiking experience and a recent winter hiking trip where they had to cut the day short. As I mentioned in the Winter Hiking 101 series, which you should all listen to if you haven't. If you're new to winter hiking, you want to try it out, it's a great series to get you started. You have to always be prepared and ready to turn around if necessary. That is a big to-do when you're out there, especially in the winter. So I have Mr. Tom Place here with me tonight on the podcast. Tom, welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast.
James, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So, backstory for all of you listening. Tom and I work together. Tom is a Hollywood stuntman. Yes, a Hollywood stuntman, Mr. Tom Place. But we met over the summer. We were doing a television series called Poker Face, which I actually think comes out like right now. I think it comes out in like early January, right?
Yeah. A couple weeks.
Yeah, so that comes out soon. But anyway, so if you guys don't know, most of you don't, why would you? I swing a microphone on a boom pole. Tom is a stuntman. So anyways, one day I had a 46 of 46 hat on, which is actually pretty much every day I would have some sort of 46 of 46 hat. And he came over and started talking to me about, is that a 46er hat? And from there, it was just a friendship immediately, because obviously that's going to get me talking, and he had started hiking the high peaks. So that's kind of our quick backstory, how we have actually a personal friendship. But Tom, before we get into winter hiking and your hike this week, tell us about your introduction to the outdoors. Tell us about your introduction to the Adirondacks, and how'd you get into this whole world of hiking? All
right. So I've always been athletic. I've always, I played all the field sports in high school, rode some motocross. I was always outdoors. We have a family cabin up in the Lake George area that I've been going to for 43 years now. I'm 45. We started going when I was 2. So the Adirondacks have always been a big part of my life. So last winter, December 2021, I was up at the cabin. The family was home here in New Jersey. And I was a little bored, and I was like, let me go out for a hike. And I've never hiked before. I've always thought it was just easy. You're walking in the woods. How hard can walking in the woods be?
Mm-hmm. Classic.
Yep. And I chose the Hadley Mountain Fire Tower, which I believe was it's between a 2 and 3 mile hike, 1,500 feet elevation. I don't really remember the stats. And I went out in jeans and my leather jacket, and I hiked to the top, and I couldn't believe how hard it was. I couldn't believe that I sweat through the leather jacket entirely. And it was such a great feeling when I got to the top of that fire tower that I immediately started researching what's next, something bigger, something better. And that was my introduction to hiking. And I told a buddy about it, and he said, you should become an Adirondack 46er. And I was like, let me look this up. And I was like, okay, my next hike is, one of the 46 high peaks. And that's how it started.
There's so much to talk about here. So now, when we were talking over the summer, when you were telling me this story, I obviously laughed, and we had a nice chat about it. But you have come a long way from hiking in jeans and a leather jacket to now also climbing high peaks in the winter. Obviously, you, like so many people, you started out, you just didn't know. And fortunately, everything was okay. But then you know, as time has gone, you've learned the ropes. Your experience level has grown. Your understanding of the mountains and the trails and equipment and gear and clothing, all that stuff has grown. But because he's been on this podcast, tell me about what happened. Tell them about what happened when you posted pictures online. Because I know I know someone who has been a guest on this podcast gently encouraged you and kind of guided you in the right direction. But tell us the story.
Well, okay, so the first peak I did was Giant, which is another jeans and tweed, jacket.
Sure.
We go back to that. The next peak was Wright Peak. So that's another thing that I'm learning along the way was if I knew better, I would have done Wright, Algonquin, and Iroquois. But I just, I thought there were individual peaks. Okay, today I'm going to do Wright Peak, and another day I'll do Algonquin. So I only did Wright Peak. It was in the dead of winter, and I had a kerchief. That was one of my favorite kerchiefs. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to write a note on here, and I'm going to leave it on one of the cairns, for the next hiker who comes up. I thought it was something cool, when you see pictures of Everest, they have, flags and everything is, blown in the winds. I thought it would be something cool. And I made the mistake of posting the picture and I tagged, ADK 46 or something like that. And, oh man, I got half a dozen very rude DMs and I got one very polite from ADK Fun Police. Like, hey, just letting you know. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to respond to this guy because he was nice about it. They're very nice.
Yeah.
Just kind of filled me in on, some of the what to do and what not to do.
The proper protocol, trail etiquette, obviously the leave no trace kind of principles and whatnot. And I say this all the time, like most of the time, these people who are berating others online, the people being berated, they just they innocently just don't know. And that's just like, that's a perfect example. You didn't respond to the others. You responded to the person who very gently guided you in the correct direction. And that is, again, why I love the way that the ADK Fun Police page operates. I love the way that he does that. I think what he does is great. It's fantastic, and he has my full support. But I remember when you were telling me this story over the summer, and I was just dying laughing because
you were
before
I even finished it. Yeah, before I finished.
Yeah, and it was the fact that that's who it was that reached out to you made me laugh. But you just didn't know, and the only way to know is to get out there and do it and learn. And if only you knew about From 1 to 46, a complete guide to climbing the 46 high peaks, that ebook, that pesky little ebook, you could have learned so much. But hey, now now you have that book. That's my ebook, by the way. If you guys are interested in hiking the high peaks, I highly recommend checking it out. You can get it at 46of46.com. Shameless plug. But anyways, so
I would actually like a small paperback version that I could keep in my backpack. It would have come in handy yesterday.
Yes, you and many people have requested such, but we'll see if that becomes a reality one day, possibly. But we'll see. I'm going the digital route for the time being, but yeah, that might be a possibility down the road, especially since I have those cool maps in there, which are pretty awesome. But yeah, so you went out hiking, you climbed some high peaks successfully in the jeans, and in you had the leather on and the tweed. But then, so at what point did you? Like start to make the transition to shoot? I'm not out here in clothing and gear and equipment. Like, oh, another question: did you have micro spikes, snowshoes, all that stuff when you climbed Giant last year?
So thankfully, the one piece of kit that I had that I needed was micro spikes. I didn't have poles, I didn't have anything, but I had micro spikes that a friend had given me. Like, hey, these will probably come in handy. I was like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. I threw them on my back. So when I wanted to get into the 46, I was like, okay, let me pick maybe an easier, mountain to do. And I saw Giant was only 3 miles up and then 3 miles out.
Sure.
Boom. Piece of cake. Okay, this will be my first mountain.
Yeah.
It was about 21 degrees that day. It was snowing. It was overcast. I had blue jeans on. I had a tweed. what did people used to climb the mountains, back in the 50s, tweed and jeans. I was like,
sure.
I'll throw my tweed jacket on. I had one 16-ounce bottle of water because I figured it was so cold. I probably don't even want to drink. Like I said, no poles, no anything. Thankfully, I had my micro spikes. I put them on. By the time I reached the summit, I had sweat through this jacket as well, which in turn soaked my pants, soaked my socks. Every single bit of me was frozen and soaked. I was absolutely miserable. I couldn't believe how long 3 miles felt, to do that 3,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah.
I was absolutely just floored by how hard that peak was, especially without proper gear.
Sure.
And that was kind of where I was like, okay, this could have been ugly. Time to do a little more research and, find some proper stuff.
Sure. And, obviously, and I'm sure there might be people listening and being like, why is James talking about this? Well, because, everyone starts out different. Everyone has a different story, and we all have to learn. And this is how you learned. I hiked so many mountains in, like just hoodies, just like cotton hoodies too. And like, we all started kind of having these same, learning, growing pains, I should say, as we're learning the ropes and learning, proper protocol and trail etiquette and all this stuff. And I just think it's really important to highlight and showcase that so that people might kind of chill out a little bit and gently guide people in the right direction. Now, there's definitely a difference between climbing mountains and being reckless and being just, innocently just not aware. There's a huge difference. And there's also a huge difference for people who knowingly don't care and then put themselves in situations that are bad, or they knowingly don't care and they do things that, to the land itself that is, totally frowned upon or even illegal half the time. So there's a big difference. But yeah, I remember just us having these conversations over the summer, constantly talking about the high peaks, which honestly between you and I, I'm away from home, you're away from home. So like, it was always a real breath of fresh air where we would have our conversations on set about the high peaks. It was like, yes, let me just go talk to Tom and like kind of transport myself mentally back to the mountains right now. But yeah, you're a Hollywood stuntman. Nothing scares you. So of course, why not take up hiking for the first time in the winter in jeans and just let it rip. So that's not surprising. So, okay. So you didn't have snowshoes either. So let's talk then. So when you got to the top of Giant, as you said, you were soaked through again, and 3,000 feet of gain, 3 miles. It's a big climb. It's very deceiving, and it gets a lot of people. I would actually dare to say I'm willing to bet it's the mountain more people turn around on than any mountain in the high peaks for that exact reason, because you see 3 miles and you think, oh, that's no problem. But yeah, most people don't realize that. And it's very popular. It's right off the side of the road. I don't have any statistics to back that up, but that's what my gut tells me is probably the most turned around mountain. So what did you do after that mountain? Obviously, at this point, you've invested in equipment and clothing and whatnot that suits the winter hiking world. So continue going through, telling us about your mindset as you were on the top of a giant frozen solid.
Oh boy, I basically wanted to just go to sleep on top of the mountain and not wake up. That's how bad it was. But that's also where I learned that getting up is one thing, but getting down feels like 3 times as long, because I couldn't believe how long it took to descend the mountain. And it was like, I don't remember this part of the trail. Did I even come up this way? How am I not back at the car yet? I don't understand. And that's been every hike so far, is how is it taking so long to get off this mountain?
Sure.
But so I went back to the cabin. The next day, I went up to the Mountaineer, the shop that's up there.
Sure.
In Keene Valley. And I said, hey, so this is what I've been hiking in. And they started, cracking up. And I said, please, point me into what you recommend. And I got some proper pants and peak jacket and underlayers. And yeah, so, the right backpack, the right hydration.
Sure. You got set up basically.
Yes. And then, yeah. So then after that, then I did Wright Peak. And then I did Algonquin, once again, not having your book yet, not knowing that you string mountains together.
Mm-hmm.
I did Algonquin, and that was great. And then my buddy Greg Harvey, who's also a stuntman with me, was like, dude, I have to get in on this hiking. Your pictures are amazing. So we then went back up Algonquin together. He hiked with me yesterday. We did Phelps and Tabletop together. It's just been one learning experience after another. Like I learned yesterday about how, when you're hiking and it's the digits, the temps are in the teens, everything in your backpack, like your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, turns to a block of ice.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm still learning. I've got 10 peaks now, but learning something new on every one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why, I say all the time that it's a journey. It is not just like something you do. It's a journey. And by the end, you think back to when you started and it's like, what you thought the mountains were and what your opinion of them was and kind of your whole vibe towards hiking. Like you feel like even if I climbed the high peaks when I first did my 46er journey, it took me one summer. It was just like 3 months. And it felt like it was years ago that I climbed that first mountain because of how much I've learned and just changed as a person from, just me mentally and as a human being, but also like what I know about the trails, what I know about the mountains and what it's like being out here. Like you've just learned so much because it's a journey and you never, you definitely never master it. That's for sure. And if someone thinks they've mastered it, Mother Nature will take care of you real quick once you start to show it disrespect or you start to think you've mastered anything. You'll be put in your place. And I really do feel that strongly. But, it's a journey and, you're always learning. And I also commend you for, you're doing a lot of this journey in the winter, which, is usually not the beginning of someone's journey, which, again, is what made me chuckle is when, that's when you started taking up hiking is in the winter, no less. It's like your classic Hollywood stuntman, Tama. Fearless. And I appreciate it though. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Yeah. And clearly it is. I love it. But anyway, so let's talk about what you learned yesterday. Yesterday you and your friend went to hike the lower Great Range with Sawteeth. So you were going to do Sawteeth, Gothics, Armstrong, Upper and Lower Wolfjaw. And take me through that trip. Let's talk about kind of what you learned and, how the day went. Let's go through that.
So, well, first we listened to your podcast episode about it, which was great.
Awesome.
You're a way faster hiker than us. So we added a couple hours. Like, okay, it took him 3.5 hours to get here. It's going to take us 6 hours to get here. So we got all our gear together. We each had 2 sandwiches. We had some bars. We had plenty of water. We had the proper clothing. We had our route, planned out. We do use all trails. We had the maps downloaded. And so we set out at 4:50 a.m. was when we hit the trail. Once again, since we're coming from Lake George, it's about an hour away. So we woke up at 3 a.m., got on the road at 3:30. We were on the trail by 4:50. First couple of miles of that trail, it was pretty flat. As you hike your way along the river, up to Sawteeth.
Yep.
But 5 minutes in, I went to take a drink of water out of my hydration pack, and I'm not getting anything. And I think the valve is closed, and the entire hose is frozen solid.
Mm-hmm.
So that was issue number one. Was wait a second, this I'm not used to this.
Sure.
We had to figure that out.
And you had one of those hoses that claims to be insulated, correct?
Correct. We both had, insulated hoses, and it was bitter cold, and
absolutely. And that's, in the Winter Hiking 101 episodes I put out, I talked all about this because I have never had any success, and I've never heard of anybody having any actual success with bladders and hoses in the wintertime. Maybe there's some people I've just not spoken to who have, and I'm sure they'll send me a message telling me how wrong I am. But I've never had any success. And when you told me that, when you texted me that this morning, I just chuckled because it's like, yep, I don't know why, but every company seems to have products, but none of them seem to actually do that. So I stick to the analogy, and I'm sure you probably will moving forward as well. But keep going, continue. So you learned that. So you learned about your water freezing in the winter pretty badly in the hose here.
Yes.
Yep.
So my fix was to tie hand warmers all over the hose and keep it stuffed deep inside my backpack. Then whenever I needed to drink, I had to stop. I had to take off my pack, and the hose was good to go then. But yeah, that's something I'll be correcting for the next hike.
That's very resourceful of you too. I commend you on your genius out there. Very nice.
And I did also have 2 backup Poland Spring water bottles. 2 16-ounce bottles. They froze as well, and that's when we decided we had an extra pair of socks. Start putting our water bottles in socks. So yeah, we kind of figured that out, but yeah, that's something I'm going to correct for next time. So we get to the bottom of Sawteeth, and like I said, we were slow but steady. We don't have to take a lot of breaks, but we're not fast at ascending. So it was a long haul up Sawteeth, slippery, icy. We did it, like we say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Although it didn't end up being that fast. So we get to the top of Sawteeth, and it's already, I'm trying to think of the time here. It was already, oh boy, it might have been close to noon already.
I mean, it's a long hike. It's a long hike from the trailhead to, because you have to go down the lake road, which is like 3 miles, and then up Sawteeth. I mean, it's a long haul. It's not a quickie by any means.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we summited Sawteeth at 11:45, and there was there's like no view from up there, and it's like all this we had to do all this for this, and then you go down, and then Pyramid's next. So we didn't summit Pyramid for I think another 2 hours. Pyramid was.
It's a doozy.
It just makes you shake your head that it's not considered a high peak when it's like it says in your book. It's one of the best views that I've seen so far, and it's such a difficult climb.
Yeah, but I actually kind of love that it's not considered a high peak technically because like that is exactly kind of the essence of the Adirondacks. It's like just when you think you figured it out or you're not expecting, hey, guess what? To get from Sawteeth to Gothics, you're going to climb up and over Pyramid, and it's going to beat the hell out of you. But also when you get to the top of Pyramid, it's going to be, again, I think, arguably one of the top views of the whole Adirondack Park. So yeah, it's just like that. I feel like it really represents the ADK very well, that mountain in particular.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
So then when you got to the top of Pyramid, are you behind schedule at this point, or are you kind of just assuming it's going to be a long day, or do you feel like your time is kind of slipping away from you guys?
Yeah, we definitely knew we were behind schedule. We knew that I think it was already I want to say we summited that at like 2:30. So we have 2.5 hours of daylight left. We're not experienced hikers. So we spent about 2 minutes on the top of Pyramid, and it was like, we got to go. Both our phones had like 5% battery life left. Like we didn't even want to check them for the All Trails map. We didn't even want to take them out to take pictures. So that's something else we learned, battery backups.
Keeping a battery in your pack, and then also keeping obviously like a battery charger and a cable, but also something to keeping your phone and those things in something. Like you can get little sleeping bag type of phone carriers. Actually, they use those at work all the time because we're always outside. But I just like that sort of thing, or even just like another wool sock for your phone. Like, I mean, it makes a huge difference in the cold when they're just in something as opposed to just your pocket. But yeah. The battery is definitely worthwhile having, and the charger or the cable, yeah.
So getting to the top of Pyramid really kind of like put some fuel back in our gas tanks. And it's like, okay, like okay, 2 minutes up here. Let's take one final picture before our phone dies. Let's go. We made it to the top of Gothic, relatively easy. But again, it's already starting to get dark. And then we looked at our map, and it said there was like in between Gothic and Armstrong was Beaver Meadow Trail that went all the way back down to the river, where we trailed in on. And we said, okay, let's get to that point, and we'll assess if we want to either hit Armstrong and then come back to Beaver Meadow Trail and get off the mountain, or if we just want to try to rush and get our entire hike in. We planned all five high peaks. We're already here. Maybe we should just do it, get it over with. We'll put our headlamps on and just whatever.
Just power through, basically, is what you're talking about. Yep.
Power through, in the dark. We would have been on the wolf jaws in pitch black. So we we both have families. I heard a saying once from a climber: getting to the summit is optional, getting home is mandatory.
I like that.
And it was so we got to the junction where it was a couple minutes to Armstrong, or we could just head down. I'm pretty sure it was called Beaver Meadow Trail.
Yeah, that's it. That's a trail. Yep.
Yeah, and it was kind of a bummer. Like, we felt like we failed. It was like, let's just get one more peek in and see if we can make the wolf jaws. Like, maybe we should. And it was like, you know what? It's already dark. We already need our headlamps. It's time to, it's time to call it. There will be another day where we could hit the other three peaks. So let's head into the woods, out of the wind, and call the hike. So that's what we did. Probably for the better.
Absolutely. That's part of it, dude. You have to be willing to say that this isn't happening today. And anyone who's hiked in the winter for, a long period of time has not summited every mountain they've gone up for this exact reason. There's just some days it's just not happening, and it's time to go home. And I really like that saying. I've never heard that, but that's it's, what was it? Summiting is optional, getting home is mandatory. That really does represent the essence of what, hiking in general, but like really in the wintertime especially. So I do think you made the right choice. And yeah, it's definitely a bummer. Obviously it's a bummer. You're already out there, and like when anything doesn't go according to plan, it's unfortunate. But again, you'll live to see another day. Now you'll get out there and you'll climb the mountains. You'll have a slightly shorter day when you go back to hit Armstrong and the wolf jaws. You get to go up other trails. There's still good elements to it. But yeah, I understand, and I commend you for not just pushing through when it was obvious that it was time to go home. So, and I think that is a lesson that people need to learn and need to accept. When anytime you do anything in the outdoors, you have to accept that you don't have control over a lot of elements out there, and sometimes it's time to just play it safe and go home. And then, there's definitely times where it's like, okay, let me push myself a little bit, see what I'm made of a little bit. But that's not all the time. That's not every situation. There are situations where you need to, discern that it's time to go home. And I think you made the right choice for sure. You were out there for 16 hours for the whole day, right? Yeah. That's a long day.
Yeah,
it was time.
According to my Garmin, it was 16 hours, 15 and a half miles, 6,970 calories.
All right. Now, you brought it up. So hit me. What did you eat after that hike? Hit me with the details.
So what I usually do is, I've never had a hike that long.
Mm-hmm.
What I usually do is I go back to the cabin, I take a shower, I put a fire on in the stove, and I make a DiGiorno, pepperoni pizza.
Sure.
That's what I usually do. That's what we planned on doing. But by the time we rolled back into the Lake George area, it was almost 10 o'clock at night. So we did the McDonald's stop. I believe is your post-hike stop too?
Dear Lord, dude. I have I have hit some McDonald's post High Peaks hikes in my day, and I hit it hard. I hit those drive-throughs real hard. I can assure you of that. And man, I tell you, I get messages all the time from people who say, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that you go to McDonald's after hikes often, because I do too." And obviously there's just the general shame of McDonald's, but man, at the end of a day in the High Peaks, it hits so hard because everything's so salty and it's hot, and it hits hard. So yeah, I know I've been there, and it's good. It tastes good.
Yeah, I wish you could have seen us walking from the car to the McDonald's as we ate in there. We were, I'm 45. My buddy Greg is like 41. We're in good shape. We like fall down the stairs for a living.
Yeah, literally.
We look like 90-year-old decrepit men with problems.
Yeah.
We were so beat up and sore. The High Peaks will do it to you.
That's usually me, even just when I finish hiking the High Peaks, and then I go to Stewart's, just from like that short little drive from any of the trailheads to Stewart's. By that, at my legs they lock up as soon as I sit in the car. That's why I actually have never really started tackling any ultra hikes, because like once I stop, my legs are done. So like even that 2-mile drive from, let's say, the AMR to Stewart's, it's just, forget it. My legs are locked up, and I look like that just walking into Stewart's to go get, a slice of pizza and a Stewart's milkshake post hike.
I know you love Stewart's, and yes, Stewart's is the best.
Oh, I love it. Those milkshakes are pretty clutch at the end of a High Peaks hike, or any time in life really, but especially at the end of a High Peaks hike. Very cool. So you've been hiking now for, you started this last season, and now you're in your second season, and you're just, kind of climbing as you go. And I think that's awesome. So, even take me through real quick, like right now, where you are now. You've summited a number of High Peaks, and you've been in some remote areas. Obviously, we're on top of Gothic's, quite a remote spot out there. You're miles and miles deep. What is your mindset like towards the High Peaks now? Like, do you think back to when you did Giant last year, and do you even at this point in your High Peaks journey feel, man, I felt that was like a different person just a year ago? Like, how do you feel as you look at the mountains now?
I mean, I never really knew that this is going to sound crazy, but because I only went to Lake George, like I never knew that there was this High Peaks wilderness, just an hour and a half above me.
Sure.
North of me. I'm really just awed by them. It's like, this is New York State, like how much of a mountain range does it really have to offer? And then you stand on the top of one of them, like Pyramid or Gothics, and you look around you, and it's like, holy cow, it's just amazing, and I mean, I'm pumped to, it's like it's just like a part of me now, and I'm pumped to just hit all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just continuing the journey.
Absolutely.
I set a 10-year goal last year. I said, you know what, because it's such an event, because I live in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And one hike is like a 3-day thing, drive up to the cabin on day 1, get everything ready, hike on day 2, come home on day 3. So I set a 10-year goal for hitting all 46, and this is just about the 1-year point, and I just hit my 10th peak, and I plan on doing a couple more. I'd like to do them all during the winter, but I just don't know if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I did Cascade. What's the one with Cascade?
Porter.
Yeah, Porter and Cascade. I did those 2 in the fall, and Phelps and Tabletop I did with my brother Chris, another stunt guy, and my buddy Greg. The 3 of us did Phelps and Tabletop in the fall, but I would prefer to do most of them in the winter.
Sure. So what makes you prefer that? Like, why do you prefer the winter over, summer or fall hiking? It's obviously harder. I mean, in my mind, the summits look cooler, and the whole experience is like, they're so different. It's almost hard to compare them. But what makes you prefer the winter?
I think because it's harder, because you have so much more gear. You have so much more clothing on, you have to deal with ice. You have to deal with snow. It's not just, I mean, not that it's easy in the summer, but it's that much harder in the winter. That I think that's why I like it more. It just feels like even more of an accomplishment. Like when you're freezing cold and you get to that summit and the wind is just howling. It's just the coolest. There's not much cooler, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, winter it is for most of them.
Very cool. Tom, you are my type of guy, and it's not surprising that we hit it off very quickly. The fact that you said you like it because it's harder, yes, you and I, we are cut from the same cloth, my friend. Very cool. All right, so as we start to wrap this up, I know you just got back from the high peaks. Let's get you back to your family. I like to ask everyone on the Summit Sessions a few questions to end the show. The first question is, what is something unique that you personally always need to have in your backpack? Something fun or something, that just means something to you? What's something that's unique to you that you always have in your pack when you're hiking?
So I don't know if I wouldn't call it unique to me. Is it okay if it's...
Yeah, there's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers.
Okay. So I'm a big wristwatch guy. So I always need my watch on. And it's always, like you basically see it in every photo. It's not, tucked under my jacket. It's not tucked under my glove. It's always out there in the elements with me. So I would have to say a good old fashioned mechanical wristwatch.
Yes. And actually, before I move on to the next question, let's talk real quick and tell people about your Instagram page, because it's really cool. The whole idea of it, the vibe of it, and tell us about your obsession with watches.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, so my entire life I've been into watches ever since I put one on at 4 years old, which I still have that watch, by the way. I've just always loved watches. I love seeing actors in movies with watches. It's just a part of me, wristwatches. So when I was 18 years old, I spent my life savings on a Rolex, which was $3,100 at the time in 1995, much to my parents, chagrin. Everybody thought I was nuts. But so later that same year, only 6 months later, I lose it in a lake. I fall off a boat. It gets caught on the railing. It goes popping off my wrist. It sinks to the bottom of a lake. Fast forward to 2015, I get certified to scuba dive, which is something that I always wanted to do. So I dived for a couple of years, and then my same buddy, Greg Harvey, we're having a scotch one night, and he's asking about the watch that's on the bottom of the lake, about how deep do I think it is? Where did I lose it? And we decided to launch what I call Expedition 16610, which that's the model number of the watch, the reference number. So my Instagram page is at Expedition 16610, and I've spent the last 3 years basically gridding out the search zone that I named it on the bottom of the lake with little search marker buoys. I have more money invested in underwater metal detectors than the watch even cost me back in 1995. So yeah, it's a process. You're laying down at the bottom of the lake. The muck and the weeds are just all over you, and you're searching every inch of muck for hopefully one day the watch. Yeah. I found tiny little screws. I found pieces of fish hook. So my saying is kind of like, if I could find a fish hook, I could find a watch. So, hopefully one day.
Yeah, that's a great story. It's seriously, that's a great story. That gets me so psyched. It's a great idea for a social media page, but it's also just a great story, and I hope you have a happy ending one of these days. All right, and my next question is, what makes the Adirondacks a unique place in your opinion?
I think it's just the beauty. That's why presidents used to vacation up here, like, in the 1800s. It's just beautiful. It's so different than what I have here in, suburban New Jersey, that when I get up there, there's a little more space. There's trees, there's mountains, there's water. It's just, the beauty of it. I just love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question is, why do you hike? Why do you spend time outdoors? What is it that draws you to go walk up mountains, especially in the wintertime?
The challenge. It's like yesterday, I'm not going to lie, parts of yesterday were absolutely miserable. But by the time you get back to your car and, you high five your buddy, you're already planning your next one.
Yep. That's it.
There's just something about that's, that I enjoy.
Yeah, no, I think we can all relate to that. Exactly as you said, once you get back to your car, you're sitting in your car, you're just like, all right, what are we doing next? What's the next hike? No, I respect it and I can appreciate it and I can relate to it strongly. So great. So real quick, where can people find you online? Tell us one more time.
At Expedition16610 on Instagram. And that's kind of it.
All right, great. So in closing here, what shows, what are you working on right now? What job are you on?
I just buttoned up some reshoots on a show called The Georgetown Project, which was a Russell Crowe film.
Okay.
Just worked on the show Succession on HBO. And next week I'll be on The Equalizer.
All right. I did The Equalizer season 1. Actually.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So keep him busy.
All right. Very cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Summit Sessions right here on the 46 of 46 podcast. Big thanks to Tom Place for coming on the show and telling us his journey as he's climbing the 46 high peaks in the winter, and he's going from hiking in jeans to continuing the journey and learning as he goes. And it's very important for everyone to understand that we all have a learning journey. We all start somewhere and we learn as we go, and it's important to help others along on the journey because these mountains, they have a story to tell you. They want to teach you about you. They want to teach you about life, and I want everyone to experience these mountains who want to experience them, and I will help until I'm blue in the face so that you have a successful and enjoyable time in the Adirondack outdoors. So that's going to wrap us up. Head over to 46of46.com. I got a lot of other stuff over there. I have an ebook for sale if you want to climb the 46 high peaks and don't know where to start. That is a terrific resource. I have blogs. You can listen to the podcast there. Lots of stuff. 46of46.com. If you like the show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'd really appreciate it. And check back on Fridays for new mountains, new stories, new guests, and new episodes right here on the 46 of 46 podcast. That will do it. Remember to always leave no trace, do the rock walk, and if you carry it in, carry it out. See you on the trails, everybody.